Hey there, everybody. Welcome back. Hey, Kate.
Hey.
Hello. So today on our episode of the podcast and video, because we're dual purposing, we're going to address the question of, will the market be flooded with copywriters? Panic, panic, panic. I definitely understand where this question is coming from. And actually, most often we see this question come up as a comment or a question on one of our Facebook ads, or sometimes a comment on a post that you probably got to because you clicked from a Facebook ad or maybe from the podcast or something like that. So the first point that I think we want to bring up, and Kate, I know you have a really good book recommendation about this, but I want people to bear in mind that when you are seeing a lot of stuff about copywriting, the way the internet works right now is it reinforces it if you click on it. Like if you click on an ad, whether it's ours or whether it's somebody else's, if you click on an ad about copywriting, you are going to get a ton more stuff about copywriting. It's like how we all joke about if you say out loud that you want to buy a new Keurig, then all of a sudden you get ads in your email and ads all over for a new Keurig, which who knows, maybe Alexa.
I'll be on my phone later, I'm sure.
Exactly. Actually, it'd be
Heard you. Yeah.
to see. We'll do a follow-up episode.
Yeah.
But once you express any kind of interest in anything copywriting related, you are going to start to see a ton of different stuff coming at you about copywriting. And that doesn't necessarily mean that then the world is flooded with copywriting and copywriters. What it means is that the very, very smart internet companies that are out there have identified that this is something that you are interested in. And so it's going to serve you up a ton of different information about that. So I do want to kind of put that point out there that you are getting a viewing experience. Exactly. You're in kind of like a little bubble that Facebook and Google have created for you. And they've created it to help you, to give you more of what you want, but you're viewing the internet through your own little perspective that has been created for you, for better, for worse, by Facebook and by Google. So I do want to put that out there. If you've clicked on something about copywriting, if you read something about copywriting, and all of a sudden you're seeing so much copywriting stuff and you're like, oh my God, there's so many copywriters, how will I ever compete? That is a byproduct of your interest in copywriting. It doesn't reflect what the rest of the world is seeing. You have been given a little custom created vision of the internet. And because you've expressed interest in copywriting, that's what you're seeing.
And our brains. Yeah. So Thinking Fast and Slow, this is probably not the last time you'll hear me reference it. I can't promise that, but highly, highly recommend it to everyone to read. It has nothing to do with copywriting per se. So it's a good read for everything you're doing in life. And it's basically talking about our brains and how they're wired and how they work. And as much as we like to think we have a lot of control over how we're thinking, we don't. And so one of the things is, with this in particular, we're bad at predicting probability. We're predicting probability and estimating things and kind of looking at, will the market be flooded with copywriters? Like Nicki said, based on the information that we have, which isn't all of the information out there. It's not based in statistical reality unless you're going out and, hunting down statistics about these things. And so it's very easy to kind of stop ourselves and be like, oh, it's going to be flooded because, oh my God, I just saw, 10 copywriters and they're all so great. And how is there a place for me in this world? But that's a handful of people. That feels like a lot. And it feels like, oh my God, everyone's a copywriter. And are there any other jobs in this world? But yeah, that's just our brains, doing what they do best, which is kind of tricking us into thinking things that aren't real.
Yeah. To extrapolating conclusions based on a little piece of the world that we're seeing.
Exactly. Yeah. So I apologize to the authors of that book. They're, brilliant folks. And I don't think I did justice summarizing that point, but please check it out because I think if anything, it helps you kind of stop when your brain is going down those mental rabbit holes. And we talk a lot about mindset here. And that's such a big part of it, is kind of knowing when to stop and think a little bit slower and think, okay, is that fact? Is that real? Or is that just kind of what am I basing this off of? What information is telling me to think this way?
Because there are facts. Good segue.
Yes, good segue. So will the market be flooded? The answer is no. And here's why. Nicki's gonna drop some numbers for us to base our conversation in a little bit of reality. So what is the opportunity? I know, obviously we're both capitalizing on the opportunity to be copywriters, and it's wonderful, but I was blown away by these numbers.
Yeah, actually I kind of was too. I did this research for a blog post I put up about this topic a couple of months ago, because we've been seeing all the questions on the ad saying, oh, the market's going to be flooded. And I was like, well, you're giving our little company a lot of credit there. But again, viewing it through that little viewpoint. But I thought, okay, I want to be able to answer this question with actual numbers. And I was also surprised by actually how big the numbers were, pleasantly surprised. So the most recent statistic I could find, 2019, says that there are more than 32.5 million businesses in the US. And I know that we have students and followers from all around the world. But just to simplify, I stuck with US numbers because actually they were the easiest to find. And again, we have students from lots and lots of different countries.
And we have students from the US working with companies in other countries, and students from other countries working with companies in the US. So to set that a little bit, the opportunity is just even bigger.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the statistic from 2019 says that there are more than 32.5 million businesses in the US. And then on top of that, there are more than 1.5 million nonprofits in the US. And then another statistic that we talked about on another podcast, but that just absolutely blows my mind, is that 543,000 new businesses are started each month. Now, I think that stat might be global, but still 543,000 new businesses are started each month on top of the 32.5 million businesses in the US that are already out there and the 1.5 million nonprofits in the US. So
huge opportunity. I'm sorry, go ahead. No, I said it's a huge opportunity.
It's a gigantic opportunity.
Which I know you're probably going to get to this, but not every company is going to hire a copywriter, because I know that's probably the first thing you're thinking. Yes, absolutely. Not every company is going to, need one right out the gate, perhaps. No, they probably, there's something they could probably use one for, but, but to that point.
Yeah, it's a great point. We're not at all saying that every single one of these companies or organizations is going to hire a copywriter. Every single one is going to hire you. But so how many companies does that work out to be if only 1% would hire a copywriter? Okay, so if only 1% of all of those current companies in the US hire a copywriter, 1%, that is 340,000 companies. So my question for you, Kate, is how many companies would you say that you can work with, or how many clients can you work with per month?
Ooh, good question. I think the max that I've had at a time, again, in different phases of projects, I don't want people to think I'm insane, but probably like 8, I would say. And that's pushing it. That's like, a project comes back from the dead for a little change that needs happening or whatever. But yeah, I would say 8 is the limit for me.
And actually even hearing 8 freaks me out.
Right? Yeah. You're like, yeah. Yeah, I would say actually, like, in the midst of a big project, and sometimes it's frankly one where it's like a big website project, I'm like, this is all I have time for. But like 3 even, it feels like a good number, depending what the work is, and again, what stage of the project. But yeah, 8 is
And 2, I want people to bear in mind, now, granted, our schedules are a little bit different right now. I'm not a full-time freelance copywriter anymore because I do this podcast and I teach people to become copywriters. And Kate has been full-time freelance, but is doing more work with us right now. But when we are full-time freelance, we are six-figure copywriters. So I want you to bear in mind that we say, 3, 4, maybe 5. And then sometimes, if you're getting crazy like Kate does apparently sometimes.
You don't want a life and you want to work on the weekends. You want to work at night. Yeah.
It's hard to say no to clients sometimes. But so like 3 to 5 is probably your maximum amount of copywriting clients you can possibly take per month. And bear in mind too, that those clients, it's not like you're necessarily switching out those clients every month. You may have 3 of those clients that carry on month after month after month after month. So my point is, if only 1% of those 32.5 million current businesses in the US and the nonprofits as well, that's 340,000 businesses that would be interested in hiring a copywriter. And if you can only take 3 or 4 or 5 clients a month, and again, it's likely that a lot of those clients are going to keep working with you again and again and again, I think it's probably maybe dawning on you a little bit. It certainly surprised me just how immense the actual opportunity is out there. So coming back to the original question, is the market going to be flooded with copywriters? No way. There's no way that the market will be flooded with copywriters. There's so much more opportunity than there are copywriters to meet that need. Well, and another point too, Kate, is that not all copywriters are created equally, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you might have a copywriter that's working with a client and they decide to work with someone else because that copywriter doesn't have enough training, or they never got the experience that they needed to really deliver to that client. But then even on top of that, even if they're a great copywriter, maybe that client needs someone with a little bit more of experience, and maybe they want, a senior level copywriter and a junior level copywriter, or whatever it is. Maybe they need 5 you had a team of junior copywriters plus you as the copy manager. And so, that was like what, six copywriters for one company. And that's not uncommon. I think of a lot of the clients that I freelance with even, and I tell them all, I feel very honored that, they're like, you're our first choice. And I'm like, that's super nice. But there's sometimes where I might get sick, or, I might just not be able to take on your project, and I might have to say no, as much as I hate doing that. And as hard as saying no is, so they need backup. They need to have other freelance writers that they can turn to. And thinking of a couple of clients I work with now, they definitely have other copywriters that I even collaborate with. And so, one company might have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 copywriters, whatever it might be, especially thinking of like an agency, they're going to have dozens, if not, depending on the size of it and who their client roster is at the time. They're going to have tons. So, 340,000 companies, that 1% that, even if 1% hired a copywriter, that 340,000 might also then hire multiple copywriters. So, there's no obviously way to pin down what number there is, but the opportunity is just, it's exponential.
Yeah. Well, and obviously we're being super conservative by saying 1% of businesses are going to, I'm saying 1% to make a point, because it's certainly not going to be only 1% of businesses that are going to hire a copywriter. I hesitate to even speculate what percentage it would actually be, but it's certainly much, much higher than 1%. We're saying 1% to make a point, because even that 1% is such a huge number of companies and organizations.
Yeah. And then I think you're a perfect example. Think of folks who you were a freelance copywriter, still are, but you've transitioned to running your own business. And I think, that's not uncommon, right? Where people might hit a certain level and then maybe they want to become a creative director, or maybe they want to, do something else beyond being a copywriter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. The kind of the ascension model can be, depending on what people want to do, junior, mid-level, senior copywriter. associate creative director, if people want to go up to that level. So it's very true. Some people could be leveling up out of copywriting. And not every copywriter has to do that. I probably will be a service provider copywriter for forever, just because I like getting down in the weeds and doing that. I also get the opportunity to give feedback in our Facebook group and to our students on our coaching calls. So I get that the way a creative director would anyway. But yeah, that's a great point. It's not just the strictly speaking copywriter role to take into consideration either.
Yeah. And just like a lot of our students are coming from other fields, teachers and some folks in marketing with a marketing background, all over. Just like that, they're all going to be copywriters that inevitably decide, hey, I'm going to do something else now. I'm going to, maybe I'll go become a teacher. I actually had a friend that did that, moved out, and that was what she wanted to do. So there's always going to be that changing roster of folks that are in this field, and always obviously tons of businesses to pitch and to work with.
Yeah, I think a fun exercise for you, if you're still, for our listeners and our viewers, if you're still kind of having a hard time wrapping your mind around it, is just to start noting and actually really writing it down if you can. If you have, put a note in your phone, is start writing down just the businesses that you come across every day. Because I think that when you actually start paying attention, and yeah, sometimes the big businesses, if you go to, everybody knows I love my Dunkin' Donuts. So if you go to Dunkin' Donuts for coffee, it's a Massachusetts company. If you go to Dunkin' Donuts for coffee and, write down Dunkin' Donuts, sure. But on the way to Dunkin' Donuts, you probably pass at least a dozen, if not more, smaller mom and pop businesses. Then you get back and you go online and maybe you check Facebook. And yes, sure, write down Facebook. That's a company. I'm sure they hire copywriters as well. But also, what ads are you getting in the middle of your feed? Write those down. When you're on Instagram, what are you seeing in your feed? When you are watching TV, when you get direct mail pieces in your inbox, when you go to the farmer's market and you see like 20 different, they're small businesses, but they could benefit from a copywriter. Start noticing the companies that are around you and start writing them down. Especially write down ones you're like, ooh, I kind of think eventually I would like to work with that company. Ooh, I really like this bread company at this farmer's market. I know they're really close by, and I'd love to work with them. And I could think of all kinds of ways that I could help them. Start making a note of the companies that you come across. And again, don't forget to bring it back full circle. This is still just looking at it through that little keyhole of perspective of the things that you see every day. So if you're making these notes of these companies that you are seeing every day, imagine how many more, well, you don't have to imagine, we gave you the numbers, but how many more are out there and how much potential and opportunity is out there. It is so much more than I can even fathom, to be totally honest with you.
I'm like looking at my desk right now. I don't have too much on it, but even just, I'm thinking my mug, it's from a small business in my hometown. There's a candle, that's a company, a picture frame, a notebook, my laptop, my phone, my journal, my pen. Mm-hmm. Literally, I don't know how many that was, but I look at the stuff on my desk and there's probably a half dozen companies right here. Mm-hmm. And then to your point, if you start liking something or thinking, ooh, I see an opportunity here of like how I could improve this, or, ooh, I wonder if they're doing this. Add that to your list, start putting that in Excel doc, Google Doc, whatever your preference. But have a column next to like, ooh, ideas. And then that way, when you are ready to pitch them or you marinate a little more on things, you already have a starting point. You're not looking at that blank screen. You're not looking at just, a company name. What did I like about them? Mm-hmm. Put it down at the same time. So when you go back, you're ready to go. You're ready to send an idea.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. So I hope that we have made it clear to you guys. that not only will the market not be flooded, nothing to worry about there, but I hope that we have, I know I've said it before, but you know, a little proof always helps, right? That there's so much more need for good, skilled copywriters out there than there actually are skilled copywriters to meet that need. And the way to make yourself even better prepared to take advantage of those opportunities is to get the training, to do the practice, to make a really great portfolio piece, to hone your pitches, make them really tight and polished. You know, and obviously that's stuff that we go through with our students, but those are really the steps so that you can take full advantage of this opportunity, these opportunities, and put yourself out there to all of these incredible companies and organizations and all that kind of stuff, and get you know, get your piece of this immensely huge pie. Thanks for watching. Make sure you don't miss any tips, tools, or tactics for copywriters by clicking subscribe right now. And of course, you can always find us over at filthyrичwriter.com. We'll see you next time.